Hey everybody, how's it going? Hello. Let's see. Forgive me, I'm in a new configuration for this, a different station, and I haven't internalized where the camera is. So hang on a second. Let's see. There we are. Hi. Let's see who's here. We'll keep a drone going. In the background. There we go. Let's see. Garen and Andy, my Logify. Shenanigans. Let's see who else. I see Wookie and Marky. Hey there. Quasar. Metropolixes look cool side by side. I think so. I love these sequencers, man. They're awesome. Let's see. Isaac Ensing. Hey, Doug. The Sonicware is doing the drone. We'll talk about that in a second. I hope that was entertaining for you guys. This is not a Pro Mark III. This is a Launchpad X. It's USB only, and I'm just using it as a control surface to play leads with. So, what is the Iridium doing? We'll get into that. It was doing some bells. Iridium's pretty good at. It's very good at bell timbres, among other things. No succulents. Nope. Hey there, Eric S. Who else is in here? Moosebeard. Hello. So there are pros and cons for the Ambient Zero. I'll talk about those for a second. I'm actually going to talk about synths for a change, because I have opinions on all three of the synths sitting here, good and bad for all of the above. So as much as I don't give reviews, we're going to talk about these synths. The bass drone was very Lorne. Is Lorne an artist, Andy? I'm not plugged into the drone community well enough to know who that is, so you'll have to educate me. Post a link in the Discord. How many launch pads do I have? Garen, I have 3 launch pads. I have a Launchpad Pro Mark III, I have a Launchpad X, which is what we're looking at here. I have a Launchpad Mini, that is what we do the jelly beans with, and then I have a couple other grids, right? Push 3, a mono, things like that. I just love grids. I know I have opinions. So anyway, all right. So let's kill these drones. Let's talk about these synths for a minute, and then we'll make some more noise. Okay. So let's talk about this Sonicware Live in Ambient Zero, the longest synth with the longest name, little tiny synth, big huge name. So this is an excellent synth, especially for the money, but it's noisy. That's the only thing I don't like about it. Its noise floor is really high. And so it's not terribly high. Like, I'm dealing with it, right? But it's definitely higher than any other piece of gear I have right now. But other than that, you need to RTFM, but it's a 4-part multi-timbral drone synth. It's great. And I've been doing it. It's doing drone duty today. And one thing I really like about it is you can tell it to hold a note. Like, I'm going to hold this C here. So it'll just hold this note. And its internal modulation is awesome, right? And the drones aren't boring. Like, I really like it. And the way it plays is the drone is monophonic. So when I want to change the route, I just go press the note I want it to be. And as long as I hold it, it stays there. So I can sort of left hand play it, right hand play it. And when you release the note, it goes back to whatever's being held, which is great, because when you want to do a little, bass reharmonization thing, you play around, and then when you let go, it goes back to the root. Super useful. Okay, and I was only using one layer. I was using the drone layer. I haven't even cracked the sequencer in it. I bought this synth by accident. This is the joke. I put it in my cart when it was like they had a sale. I put it in my cart. It was late at night. I wasn't paying attention. I changed my mind. I was like waffling. Am I going to buy it? Am I not? And I thought I had said, nah, I'll look at it later. And then like 4 weeks later, this box arrives and I'm like, what is this? And I open it up and it's this. And I don't remember actually buying it. I don't remember the transaction, right? So I say I bought it by accident. I fell, I tripped, and my Apple Watch, payment, went by the sensor accidentally. I don't know, but I'm happy with it. It's very nice. So, hey, Quattro Pagina, welcome aboard. Grits. Did I say grits? Anyway, but that's basically what happened. So I bought a synth by accident, but it was very inexpensive, right? It's not like it's not a Geddy Lee red Mini Moog. No accidental purchases there. Anyway, but this is a great synth, and the panel is useful, but absolutely not like intuitive, like at all. You do have to read the manual for this one. Anybody who can figure this out, like without reading the manual, my hat is off to you. I can't do it. I had to go watch the video tutorials and then look at the manual for reference. But it's super fun. So let me kill this. So it does four multi-timbral parts. It's got a drone part. It's got a pad part. You can hold all of them. Now, if it sounds like it's clipping a bit, that's there's a bunch of preset. So what Roland, here we get into synth nomenclature. If you have a Roland synth, Roland refers to these things as scenes, okay? So a Roland synth, when you load a preset, it's typically loading a scene, which is a sound for every channel it's capable of playing, be that 1 or 4 or 8. Possibly a drum kit as well, and that's a scene, okay? But that concept matches this Sonicware Ambient, the live-in synths. It has a thing called patterns, all right? And you load, patterns are essentially its presets, and its pattern contains a sound for drone pad. There's 4 layers: the drone layer, the pad layer, the atmospheric layer, and the noise layer. And so you can go through their presets and use their stuff, and it's very playable right out of the box once you understand how to access patterns and what this UI, this user experience means. But you can then make your own patterns, and it's got slots for oodles and oodles of these things. Now, I have not gone to the trouble of making one because I still haven't learned the sequencer or anything like that. I am just using it for some drones for today. I literally looked at it a couple months ago, was like, wow, that's very confusing, and then put it away. And then I think Friday, I was like, okay, Friday night, let's try and make this work. But it's super fun. So in this pattern, we've got a drone. Which is the one I'm using. There's this pad. And this pattern is intentionally, it's got some clipping in it, like it's supposed to be gritty. There's an atmospheric. Hey, this is as close as I get to lo-fi, okay? Taskboy 3000, if you're watching, you can tease me about lo-fi jokes. And then there's the noise layer, which is generally noise or a sample, like an ambient sample. There's a pattern in here where the noise layer is like forest sounds, like wind in the trees and birds chirping. So this is the noise layer, right? Super cool. But I'm very basically using it for drones. Okay. But it's super light. I think it was like $200, or if that. But it's got full-size DIN. I like 5-pin DIN. There's a discussion going on in the Midlife Synthesis Discord about DIN versus tip ring sleeve MIDI. And I prefer DIN. For reasons, but anyway, So I'm having a good time with this. It's very entertaining, and it's providing the stuff there. Lo-fi forever, says Garen. Too funny. Please tag me or put capital Q's in the line if you have a question specifically for me. So let me see here. Karsten Stiller, hey, you also have an Ambient Zero and you love it. Yeah. And you watch the tutorials at least twice. Absolutely. This is like a requirement. Yeah, the sound with the glide is really good. They tuned the glide timing to be that right, just that right sort of feel. Lo-fi beats, nice. All right, 5 pinned in. That's my thing. Anyway, so that's the Ambient. So this is providing the drone today. All right, this is a Launchpad X. It's just yet another isomorphic grid keyboard. If you've seen anything on my channel, you know I play grids. And this is just hooked up to Omnisphere with 4 different leads with way too much delay and reverb. And I'm just using this to play leads, of which there was a very prominent French jazz note in there. In the last one, if you didn't catch it, you'll see it in the playback. But this is just going to Omnisphere to play some leads, just plain and simple. Okay. There's like no sequencing going on. Ableton's running. It's providing. It's a clock and a mixer for all the synths. The synths are dumping over into an audio face over here, and then feeding into Ableton, and then I'm applying effects in Ableton. So, although this synth, which I don't know if you can see. Look at the camera. Karsten says they live 5 pinned in so much that they make the import and the export via sysx a must. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can kind of see this in the camera. Over here is a Nord Lead A1. It's my oldest synth, or the synth I bought first many moons ago. In my adult, when the channel started going, it started going because I had this synth. This synth is providing effects. Its internal effects are good enough that I'm using them for this. But what's happening is we have a couple of Metropolixes. I don't know what's the plural. And these are sequencers from IntelliGel. They're Eurorack sequencers, but they sell a kit. You can buy them. I think it's called the Metropolix Solo. I've talked about these in the channel before. This one is controlling channels 1 and 2 of the A1. I'll demonstrate that in a minute. And this one, both channels are going to a single channel in the Blofeld here. Not the Blofeld, the Iridium. There was going to be a Blofeld in here. This is my other synth opinion for today. I'm going to sell my Blofeld because I absolutely hate programming the Blofeld. I just can't stand it. It's a great synth, and I really have given it a chance for a little over a year now, year and a half. And I even bought the software version thinking I'll design sounds on my laptop using the VST version of the Blofeld. But the process of getting those patches over into the hardware is so onerous that that's like a non-starter. And programming on the Blofeld panel itself is horrifyingly bad. And for those of you who are capable of doing it, you are amazing people. And I don't have your stick-to-itiveness. So anyway, that's the Blofeld. The Blofeld is not here. But this IntelliGel Metropolix is controlling the Iridium. And we'll get to the demonstration of that in a second as well. All right, but I think, from a camera perspective, you can see enough. Let's see. Can you load your own samples on the Ambient Zero? Shenanigans asks. I do not know. You'll have to Google that. I don't know. I haven't even thought about that yet. Shenanigans. I'm still playing with just the presets that come with it. They sound great. And since I'm using it as a drone, which lays under everything, I'm happy with it. It's fine. Why did Roland follow this? My Logify, asks Andy. Why did Roland follow this subpath with the whole Xenology thing? I like Roland Xenology. I think the Xenology synth is an excellent synth. If you want the Roland sound, it's like no money. It's like $3 a month or $4 a month for the basic subscription to the Xenology synth. VST, and you have like all of the Roland sounds, right? And you could get into the whole digital versus analog thing, but I don't make a distinction. Anyway, let's see. Subscription model. Some people really hate the subscription model. I understand. I like the subscription model because if it's fairly priced, right? I don't like a subscription where it's $30 a month. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Looking at you like Netflix. But like I think the starting tier of the Roland Cloud is $3.99 a month or something like that. And I think the pro version is $10 a month, so I'm fine with that. Yeah, the Blofeld sounds great, and it's 16-part multi-timbral. Although I've never been able to use all 16 parts, it tends to crash when I start loading up more than say 12. But as a like I went to LFO.store. If you're not familiar with the website, they sell a bunch of different patches and preset libraries. LFO.store has a bunch of stuff for the Blofeld in the ambient space, in the Berlin School space. And so I bought, $50 worth of preset packs for the Blofeld, loaded them onto Blofeld, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. And then basically as an ambient rompler, as a preset box, the Blofeld is awesome. And that's what I've been using it for like a year. But programming from scratch on it is just, it hurts. It hurts so bad. I think that's why people are like, I'm going to sell the things I make, and people actually, and there's good money to be had there because most people try programming the Blofeld and go, screw this. I'm going to go buy some libraries. So there's a, business model for you. Find a synth that's really hard to program. And if you can deal with it, go make sounds for it and then sell those sounds. Right. MyLogify asks, what held you back from getting the Jupiter XM? I owned the Jupiter XM, MyLogify, right? Right. The Jupiter XM is a great synth, and it was cost effective, albeit small. What killed me for the Jupiter XM is I don't care for the panel. And there's like, you can get a bunch of different, classic synth models and load the models into it. But that just seems silly to me because it's like, if they're like pandering to the collectors, or not even the collectors, they're pandering to the people who want to be collectors but don't want to pay the money to be a collector, which is fair because the collecting market is stupid. But like the XM, when you load a model onto it, it's true for almost all the Roland synths, I think. When you load a model onto it, like a certain percentage of the knobs stop working because that synth you're modeling doesn't have those functions, right? So it's like, and they go dim, right? There's visual cues that they've been shut off. That just seemed silly to me. I like the Xenology synth, right? And so whenever I used the XM, I used it just in Xenology mode and used those sounds. But the panel is not awesome. I'm not happy with the panel. And this is total personal preference, right? Some people, I'm very picky. I'm not picky in that I'm not saying that I only like good panels, because it's super subjective, right? So what's a good panel for me is not a good panel for someone else, and vice versa. And it didn't jive with me. I had an XM for about a year, ended up selling it to a friend in the local synth community. He kept it for about a year and then he sold it. And then I bumped into him and he's like, yeah, I sold it to the panel. I wasn't happy with the panel. And I'm like, I totally hear you. And I just went to Roland Cloud, because at the end of the day, I don't necessarily want to make a new sound when I reach for Roland. When I reach for Roland, I'm in like 80s mood, right? I'm doing synthwave. And those sounds it's like orchestral sounds or a piano. They are well-known sounds, right? There's standard sounds right out of the Roland library that you want. They're in the Xenology library. Just go reach for them. It's like opening the fridge and grabbing a can of beer or something, right? You just I want that sound right there, boink. And you go get it. I don't want to go make that sound. I'm starting to realize, well, I think I've known this all along. I'm starting to admit publicly that I'm a tweaker. I'll take a preset, I'll tweak it. I make a few sounds from scratch. It depends on the panel. If the panel's really inspiring, I will. But at the end of the day, I want to write some music, and I have a sound I'm looking for. And so if the synth has a preset that does that sound, I'll take it. I might tweak it, but that's what I need. So that's for me. So that's your answer, MyLogify. The XM was a great synth, but it didn't pass the long-term panel is fun test. So, but yeah, Karsten, the Ambient 0 is excellently priced, I gotta say. Let's see. I did have the sample extension for the Blofeld, or I have. It's sitting in the next room. How do I like the Iridium? So the Iridium has the same problem that the Blofeld has, but in the other direction. It has a panel with oodles of control on it, but something about the workflow is just not jiving with me. I'm holding on to it because it's probably the most powerful piece of hardware I own. And so I'm reluctant to let it go from a collector's perspective. The collector in me is like, hold on to it. But I do not reach for this synth when I want to make a sound. And I gotta say, in my opinion, Waldorf's presets, not awesome. They source a lot of them from the community, right? So when this came out, everything's a library by various folks. And they're good. The most fun I have on the Iridium is making a sound, usually using the resonator or using the kernels. The wavetable stuff is fun too, but wavetables, I'm getting tired of wavetables personally. Getting a little burnt out on them. And I think that's a pendulum that swings back and forth. So it's an excellent synth. It's relatively reasonably priced, depending on where you're looking, compared to the Quantum. When the Quantum came out, the Iridium was a steal. Right. Let's see. Doug asks, if you're getting the Iridium new, would you get the core? I haven't looked at the core, so I don't know. And I think the Third Wave has, they've done the same thing with the Third Wave. You can get the Third Wave, or you can get the Third Wave, halvesies with 2 layers or something like that. That might be nice too. The Third Wave is another excellent synth. Its panel actually jives with me. I like the Third Wave panel. All right, so let's see. Let me get through the chat here. Any other tags? I'm going to zoom past. Hey, Rourke. I sing the Body Electric. Ove. Is it Ove or is it Ove? Let's see. 222. All right, so what we're doing. This Metropolis is controlling the Iridium. This one's controlling the Nord A1. The Ambient is doing drones, and the Launchpad X is doing synth stuff. Leads. All right, so let's talk about the Iridium. Let's demonstrate the Iridium here. So hang on a second. Let's turn everybody's volume down, more or less. We'll put a drone on. All right, we'll leave the drone going. So we've got a root. What are we in? We're in C minor. Okay, so let's start up our system clock. All right, so channel 1 of this is doing It's doing a 3-note sequence. Let's bring it up. Let's actually load some sounds here. I have notes. So, I don't know if you can see this. My wife gave this to me for Christmas. It's awesome. It's super goth. I'm 53. I'm really not goth. Never really was. But she gave me a journal that's black. All the pages are like this sort of matte black with the lines are in silver and gold. She gave me a bunch of silver gel pens. Anyway, let's see. 251. So I like the Iridium for bell sounds. So let's load a bell here. All right. And let's play it. So it's running. Bring up the volume. All right, so this is our 3-note sequence, or 3-stage sequence running. And that's in track 1. And I've got track 2 also pointing to the same sound. The Iridium is bitimbral, so I could put a different sound on layer 2. But that's another thing that annoys me about the Iridium. When you're loading things, it resets whether it's in single mode or layer mode, and it defaults back to single. Really frustrating. But I also like running 2 sequences. So if you haven't tried this, when you're doing Berlin School, have 2 sequencers, okay, and point them both at the same instrument, and then experiment with that instrument, setting it in. If it's polyphonic, get yourself a polyphonic patch, and then also experiment with a monophonic patch, even though you've got 2 sequences pointing at it. Because if those sequences are different lengths, you're going to get this interesting pseudo-random, long-running repetition. So I'm going to turn on the other. Yeah, I'll bring that up an octave. Actually, we'll leave it low. And then here's what the second pattern is doing. So this is a 5-stage pattern. So we're going to layer these together. I'll unmute track 1. Right, you get this nice Berlin bed. So you got two sequencer tracks pointing to the same synth. Doug asks, if I was looking at the third wave or the Iridium, which would I get? Tough. If you're getting a desktop module, oh man, they're very different synths, Doug. The Iridium does more. It has more synthesis methods. But I think that the panel on the third wave is better for me. So it's tough. That's a tough call. I would say, I'm gonna be a jerk. Get both. So, yeah. No, there's no good answer there. Hey, Awkward Teeth and Hair. Christian Doming. Hey there. Anyone who popped in, hey Cressy, anyone who popped in who I missed, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to tag me or put capital Q's at the beginning if you want me to answer questions, okay? So what we're looking at is the Metropolis, 2 tracks in sequence driving the Iridium right here to do a Berlin School bed. We've got the Ambient 0 droning. And so while this is running, it's in C minor pattern, we can change the drone and completely sort of give ourselves a chord progression as we go through just by changing the bass drone. Yeah, the problem, Doug, is you can't find them. Yeah, they're to demo them. I know. If you want more options for different kinds of sounds, I would go with the Iridium. If you want a very targeted synth that's very powerful with fewer synthesis options, but I think a better overall sort of design, it's not a better design. I just like the panel on the third wave more than I like the panel on the Iridium. So, I don't know, solicit more feedback from other people, Doug, because I'm super opinionated, right? And my opinion may disappoint you. So, I don't know. I can't say which way to go, third wave or Iridium. Rourke, you got a 16A. Nice. I hope you like it. I'm running, all of this is running into a Motu AVB AVB Microlight. It's old. They don't make it anymore. But their stuff lasts forever. And then over in Ableton, what we'll do is we'll stick a bass drum in here. Just to give it a heartbeat. Since we're holding that C, if we play anything else, when we let go, it just drops back to C. grid here, this is driving an Omnisphere. So let's switch out. Let's change this patch on us. Let's see. I've got a few others that I picked. So I like using bells in the Iridium. It's stuff for doing bells is really nice. Let's see what else we got here. Here's a softer one. This Metropolis over here is driving 2 channels on this Nord A1 over here. So let's bring in channel 1. I have a tendency to have too many layers going all at once. So we'll bring the Iridium out. It gets, it turns into what I call deedle music, where it's just like there's something happening on every possible 16th note, which is fun, but it can get a little grating to the ears. Let's vary this pattern length a little bit. Pattern 2. Play a little lead over it. In. We'll get a little deedle. Actually, let's load a different Iridium patch here. What else did I have? Something a little brighter. And there we go. It's another little jam. So basically, what I've done with the studio lately is, well, before I do that, let's keep the drone going ever so slightly. Let's do a pad. And a little noise too. There we go. Let's see. So I've been redoing the studio into stations. Hang on a second. I'm looking for tags real quick. Going back. If you asked a question and I missed it, just ask it again and tag me with cues, because I'm paying attention now. All right, no tags. Cool. All right, so I go through phases. Like, we all waffle, right? One of the most entertaining and fun things to do with synths is to reconfigure your synth studio, right? Because there's a subset of the synthesizer community who are all, there are musicians, there are sound explorers. I'm doing broad generalizations here, right? So I may miss some or I may get it wrong, but in my opinion, there are people who make music. There are sound explorers, there are collectors, and you can be a mix of all of these, right? And laid across all of those often are people who are system builders, okay? They like the control, like I like having a sequencer that I control tell my machines what to do, right? I make the music that arises out of the orchestration of the system, right? And I work in tech. I'm a total nerd, right? So I like system building. So one of the things that is easily distracts me from the actual making music is building more systems, right? Tool smithing, right? When Max for Live came out for Ableton, it's like, what's that? A programming language I can use to extend and build my own tools? Oh, and then I wrote new music for like a year because I was building Max things, right? And that tapers off. So the pendulum swings back and forth. I used to have a giant studio with almost 50 analog inputs spread across the room, and every synth was powered up, plugged in, set up with MIDI, and within my DAW, I could just drag a piece of hardware from a template box that I had, saved in the library, and say, what's that? Oh, I want a Minimoog, drag, blink, and now my control surface is controlling that Minimoog that's over in the corner. What's that? Oh, I want a Nord A1, drag, drop, boink, and now I've got an A1 track that's controlling that A1 over in the corner. And so that's like one end of the spectrum. I did that for years. And what happens is on the other end is you go Dawless, right? And you're like, nope, no DAWs, right? Or you just use the DAW as a mixer. I'm a big fan of, like, I don't like pedal effects. I have a whole bunch of pedals, and every time I try and use them, they frustrate me, yet I keep collecting them because I'm a collector. But, and some synths have no effects, and some synths have terrible effects, and some have great effects. But to sort of homogenize my sound of the music I make, I tend to turn the effects off of synths generally. Like delay, sure, I'll leave that in there, but like reverbs and things like that, I'll turn them off and use the effects within the mixer that is the DAW, right? So I use a bunch of VSTs and Ableton effects. Those are providing our delay and reverb and things like that. Compression. But I flip back and forth between having a bazillion inputs and everything is available at the click of a button to be routed in, predetermined routings, and then waffling between that and Dawless. So where I'm at now, because I'm a system builder, that half the fun of this is building new systems, is this room now has 4 stations in it. It's got a station that has what I refer to as Bobby and the Corgis, which has got a Moog Subsequent 37 and 4 Korg Raspberry Pi synths, and they're hooked up to the Ableton Push. If you look at any old streams in the last month or two, that's the primary sort of streaming rig. All right. Now I've built this Dawless system, right? The control is here on the desktop within the sequencers, and I play, like, so it's digital sequencing, digital meaning digits, not computer. But it's running into an interface, and that interface goes into Ableton. Ableton's a mixer. It does the compression for my mic. It feeds it in so I can stream, and I can play. And I find this very, very fun and playable. I see a tag going by in the chat. I'll get to it in a minute. I've got 2 other stations I'm in the middle of building. One is a modular station. I've got a matriarch with a 2-row rack extension on it. And I've been working on that and building it out, but I'm frustrated with modular for other reasons that I'm not going to get into here. But I will get around to having that. And so that'll be the 3rd station. And then I've got a 4th station over here. Let's see. Maybe I'll just move the camera around. Hang on. What time is it? 2:56. Yeah, we're winding down here. I usually run for an hour. So let's bring this around. There we go. So you see the mess. So what we've got on this side of the room, there we go, live camera. So that's my own, that's manual pan tilt zoom right here. It's PTZ. So what we've got here is there is a Summit and a Third Wave and a Nord Wave 2 and a Hydrosynth. And those are 4 flagships. So I'm going to set up another sort of station here that's the 4 flagship station. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to alternate. So for the stream every week, we're just going to rotate around. So it'll be over on the push with the Korgs, right, which is over here. There's that. It's going to be the flagships. It's going to be, let's see, there's that's the matriarch with the modular that's being worked on. And then this thing, which is the pseudo Dawless Berlin School. There we go. The pseudo Dawless Berlin School rig. And we're just going to rotate around every stream for, until I get bored doing that. Right. And eventually we'll see if we rebuild, we tear it all down, make a new system again. All right. So let me know what you think of that. So if that's annoying, well, that's okay. There are other synth channels. Let's scan back. I saw somebody say something here. Let's see. People talking about Berlin School. Talk more about Berlin School. We love Berlin School. Let's see. Doug asked, when you create sounds in the Iridium, can you do so without touching the touchscreen? You can, but you're going to be limited because some things have to be used on the touchscreen. There are some things that have to be certain options you can only get through the touchscreen. They do a really good job of, like most things, like if you press the button multiple times, it'll iterate through the interface and stuff. Right, so if I keep pressing these buttons, it'll go through the menu so I don't have to tap them manually. But yeah, you do have to touch the touchscreen, like setting some of these parameters down here require touching the touchscreen. Now the touchscreen, mine at least, is very good. I have not had a problem with it. There is that gorilla arm effect where if you're like this a lot, my arm gets tired, right? But I don't know. This is an excellent synth. If you want a software synth that's a whole lot like this, go get Pigments, okay? I'm not going to say this is Pigments in a box. Other people have said that. But that's another, there are, 5 different synth engines in this for each oscillator. You pick which one you want. Very much like Pigments. So, if you want an Iridium but you can't afford it, go get Pigments. Basically, I would do that. Let's see. 222. Hey, Biscuit. I see you there. Cressy asks, what are the silver boxes? These are IntelliGel Metropolix. It's a standalone desktop hardware two-track sequencer. And these work with CV and MIDI. I'm running MIDI out of them right now. They're Eurorack modules, and you can get a box to mount them in that provides them with power and MIDI ports and stuff like that. These are great. They're not cheap though. I think the Metropolix was 400 and change, and then the kit was 100 or 200. But you know, there's only like what, 4,000 different kinds of sequencers available in Eurorack, and this particular one, the form, I like. I find this very musical and very jammable, fun to play with. So I liked it, and I liked it so much I got another one. So that's how we got there. Let's see. All right, we're at 3 o'clock. Who else here? Boop boop. Who else popped in? Robert Penway, are you here? See if someone else is mentioning you. Yeah, there you are. At some point, all synths do sound the same. Can do the same thing. Yeah, we're living in an awesome time, right? We're at a place of synth nirvana where like every synth that comes out can do everything now. We're getting very close to that, right? But you know, that's still fun. I like to collect, right? And there's something about laying hands on hardware. I'm a big fan of software synths, but I also like touching the tactileness of it, right? People have that whole, like, I don't want to look at screens. So like this Nord, no screens on this thing. And it's everything is on the front. There is no Vulcan nerve pinch you have to do. Like on the Moog synths, there's generally no screen on the sort of classic Moog synths. But on the later models like the Matriarch and things like that, you have to do these Vulcan nerve pinches, like hold down this button, and then hit a key, and that's how you change an internal configuration. And you always have to look that stuff up in the manual. And that's fine, and it works, but it's still cognitive load, right? This Nord, everything you need is on the panel. Let me show you this actually. Hang on a second. Let's see. Doug says I have everything Arturia makes. Nice. Okay, so here, let me show you this. So Nords are expensive, okay, because they just have always been. And this is the cheapest Nord synth that's still available, although they don't make the racks anymore. You have to get it with keyboard. But the keyboard is nice because Nord likes people. They make sense for people who like to perform, right? But let me show you this. If you didn't read the manual on this, okay, you'd be fine. You could experiment and figure out what everything is, because everything you need is labeled. There are no hidden functions, and the few menus that do exist, if you hold down Shift and press any of these 4 buttons, you can get the system menu for settings, the MIDI submenu, the sound library management stuff. But all of that is literally printed on the panel. So like if you don't read the manual, but you know that the definitions of what's in the couple menu items they have is in here, it's everything you need is on the panel. It's freaking awesome. Great synth. Highly recommended. Anyway. Anyway, so that's about it, I think. We're at 3:03. I generally run for an hour. Any other questions here? I see a message retracted from Garen. Garen's being profane again. I think that's about it. All right. Well, hey, everyone. Thanks very much. Appreciate you visiting, spending time. Next week, I may do this rig again. I may flip back over to Bobby and the Corgis. I might have the Matriarch working, and I might have the 4 flagships running. I do not know. It really comes down to how much time I have to be a system builder in here. I have to work on Monday, but Tuesday, my wife's going on holiday to visit her family. And when she visits her family, I go on holiday for solitude and synth nerdery. So I might get a bunch of stuff done next week and then share it with you guys next Sunday. We'll see. Okay. Yeah, Bobby and the Corgis. Yeah, it's like a band name, right? So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. Have fun. Be, blah, blah, blah. People start espousing their philosophy towards the end of their stream usually. So have fun, be kind to each other, all that good stuff. I will talk to you. Those of you who are in the Discord, I'll see you later tonight. And thanks, everyone. Good to talk to you later. See ya.